glad they're here.
Why do you hope not a lot?
That's not really the position I want to be in.
What's the biggest change you had this offseason compared to the previous ones?
The biggest change? I'm not sure I'm changing too much. Just like every year, you're trying to get bigger, stronger, faster, refine things where you can refine them. That's kind of my process every year. I've had injuries that kind of change your off-season mindset a little bit. This year I don't have any of those, and that's great. So I can, focus on getting better all around and become a more well-rounded player.
What do you dwell on after a season like that, when you personally play so well, not miss the playoffs for a second straight year? What do you dwell on to kind of get ready for the upcoming?
There's always more you can do. If I had played even better, then we wouldn't have been in that spot that we were in. So I'm just focused on trying to get better myself. And, I know everybody in the locker room it feels the same way. So if I go out there and play – hold on, Hobbs, dang. If I go out there and play better than I did last year, then it doesn't matter what goes on everywhere else. Okay, your turn, Hobbs.
Nope. What are you going to do for an encore?
Just try to get better. Stats are going to fluctuate year in and year out. Maybe I have a better statistical year, maybe I don't. I'm not really too worried about that, but try to come out and win games, do what I can to win games, be better as a quarterback and as a player. I think that's attainable, and that's the goal, the milestone, year in and year out, is just try to get better.
Where can you get better?
You can get better everywhere. Doesn't matter how good you were in any area. There's always room to be better in certain spots, certain aspects of the game. So I'm excited about that opportunity.
Is the wrist injury an afterthought at this point?
Just like with any ligament injury, it's going to take a while to come back. It's better this time of the year than it was last time at the same time. So just constant improvement in that is going to do me good.
It's a different side of the ball, but what's it like seeing Al Golden return now as defensive coordinator?
Yeah, it's good to see Al. I haven't been in those meetings, and I'm not entirely sure. That's probably a better question for defensive guys, but I know I have a lot of trust in Al, and from my short time with him early in my career, I know he takes it seriously. I know he's a really good coach, so it's good to have him.
A couple of years ago, we asked you about the rumors that you were potentially doing quarterback. Since we last talked to you, Netflix released that you're going to be a quarterback this summer. What was your reason behind wanting to do that this time around?
I don't know. Caught me on the right day, I guess. But I think it's going to be good entertainment. Not necessarily the season that I wanted to have in that spotlight, but I think a big part was Peyton being involved in it too. I have a lot of respect for him, obviously, and what he does as a person. So if that guy reaches out to you and asks you to do something, then most of the time I'm going to say yeah.
Have you watched a bunch?
Yeah, I've watched the first several episodes to get my input.
What's Peyton trying to do when he's trying to sell you on that? What's the biggest buying point? Aside from, obviously I know that guy really well, I trust him a lot. To get involved in something like that with your name attached to it, what's been the biggest selling point to say, hey, this is a project that I think would be good for you?
Just that only positive things could come out of it. He's going to protect me, protect our team, protect the organization. I have trust in him for saying that, and trust that he's going to do that. So I probably wouldn't have done it if he wasn't involved, but I have a lot of trust and faith in him to not do anything that would hurt me or the team.
What did you think of the first few episodes that you've seen?
Pretty good. I guess that's for you guys to decide when it comes out. I don't know. I probably won't watch it when it comes out, but hopefully you guys like it.
Is it more entertaining than a documentary on Jeff Hobson?
I sure hope so.
Just you're a private person. I'd like to keep things close to the vest, but doing
that was definitely a curveball that I didn't quite expect throughout the whole process, but the people involved in it, working on it on the day-to-day were great and weren't too intrusive. So, I worked with some good people for that.
Joe, back to you, Jamal. When they ended up getting both those guys signed, a lot of us probably didn't think it was going to happen, and you advocate for it and go into it. What kind of message does that send you to the front office, and kind of how much they're invested, not only you, but the whole team? Like, what does that say when they're able to go out and get something of that magnitude done?
I just think it says they're invested in winning. I think they want to reward guys that they draft that come in and play great. I think that's a recipe for success.
What's your thoughts on kind of the trade situation of that when Thomas the last one to get done? What are your thoughts on kind of that being still the last outstanding deal that potentially get done?
Yeah, we'll see what happens with that. You guys all know how I feel about Trey. He's a great player. I love Trey as a guy. He goes out and plays well every single Sunday. He's very productive. He's a guy that deserves to get paid and get paid what he wants and what the market is. So, like I said, we'll see what happens with that. But I love Trey and hope he's with us.
Did you get a text, a FaceTime from T and Jamar when they signed that? How did you find out what the deal was?
I was here the day they signed. I think Jamar texted me first, and then T followed up a little bit after. But that was I think I was in Miami for that. I think I was at Sam Hubbard's bachelor party when I got that text. So that was a nice little treat.
You can give one piece of advice to Shamar Stewart as he approaches rookie year. What would it be, Joe?
Just work hard, develop a routine, find the people that are going to help facilitate your success, have the right people around you, go out and make plays, play really hard, understand your job. Everything that I've seen from him in our short time together so far has been very positive. He's always got some energy in his face, comes in ready to work. So, obviously we'll see what happens in the season, but I got a lot of faith in him.
So what do you think of the schedule, Joe?
Playing in Baltimore for the fourth straight primetime year isn't ideal. Maybe we could get one of those in Cincinnati next year, please. Maybe an international game next year too. I think, part of the reason I wanted to do the quarterback show, I wanted to help grow the game internationally, and so to not have a stage like that is a little disappointing because I feel like I've consciously worked hard to try to grow the game internationally over the last 18 months or so. So hopefully at some point in my career we can go over there.
That being said, are you interested in all of the flag football's going to be at those meetings? Or how much are you potentially trying out for that or being that quarterback to represent the U.S.?
Yeah, I'd love to. That's an exciting opportunity, I think. I'm not entirely sure how that would work out with training camp and all of our obligations here. It's not my forte, but that's something that I would like to do for sure.
I believe as it's currently stated in the resolution, it's only going to be one NFL player per country. Would you like to see that, like, so you and Jamar couldn't both play for the U.S. and be one or the other? Would you like to see
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think so. Would you like to see that expanded, where you could have multiple players from teams go?
Well, I guess it just depends on if they want to, how much they want to grow the game. I think the more NFL players that you have on the roster, the more people are going to want to tune in and watch, and so I guess that's a decision that they have to make. But I'd love to see all of our guys out there. Yeah.
Joe, one of the biggest storylines about this team heading into the season is going to be about the start and how you guys play in the month of September. Zach talked a lot about at the end of the season that being a big point of emphasis for this organization. From what you've seen, I know you've only been back here for a month, but have you noticed any changes, and have you met with him to go over how you guys could potentially, other than playing more in the preseason, maybe make some tweaks that could help you guys in the month of September?
Just doing everything that you can to be more prepared, I guess. We're running more as a team. This time of year is about the same. I would say we're working a little harder in the weight room and running. But at the end of the day, we just have to go out and play better early in the year. can come up with all these different things to try to make that happen. I think playing in preseason games will help. We haven't had those discussions yet, but based on the little that we have, I imagine we'll be playing more, and I think that'll help. But we'll see. I think at the end of the day, we just have to take some ownership and come out of the gates and execute and play better.
Joe, you attended the Met Gala. I'm curious, what's the process like of doing that, asking to go, and why were you drawn to wanting to go do that?
It's a new experience. It was fun. It's about 5 minutes of taking pictures, and then it's just a little dinner party. So it was good people, good vibes. I was happy that I was able to go. Maybe we'll go again. I don't know. We'll see how we'll play it by ear.
Between that and Paris, is there something about that you've been particularly drawn to, that kind of to spend time? I'm sure there's tons of places you could spend your off-season time. I mean, why has it been about places like that has kind of been something for you?
I would say the media all around the event is a little exhausting, but once you're actually there, it's just it's very private, and that's hard for me to come by these days. So the more opportunities that I can try to have a normal dinner party, a normal dinner, be around people that don't know, don't care, just around good people, the more opportunities I'm going to take.
A little random question before we go back to college a little bit. When it wasn't from out of the community, would you have left before you graduated, had the pool been around?
Yes.
How do you feel like that would have affected the development had you left before you stayed 3 years?
Who knows? Who knows? Hopefully I would have gotten on the field earlier. But I also progressed as a player at Ohio State rapidly, got better and better and better just in practice. Who knows how it would have played out otherwise. You can play that game all day, but you change one thing or here and there, you never know what kind of effects that's going to have. So who knows?
Is there a part of you that is not envious of guys that are in that spot trying to make that decision because it wasn't really an option for you? You kind of had to deal with that and kind of go with it as it was?
No, I think the more choices and opportunities that you have, the better. Obviously that comes with its downsides, just like anything in life. The more you have, the more decisions that you're going to have to make, and the more you're going to have to weigh those opportunities. But I think in the long run, it's probably better.
We know how you feel about Trey. How often, especially in an off-season with the uncertainty around him, do you communicate with him, you guys?
Here and there. Early in the off season, quite a bit. Lately, not quite as much. He was here last week, obviously, as you guys know. That was an exciting day, and it was great to see him. He came in and brought good energy. Was happy to see everybody. And like I said, I love Trey. I love seeing Trey. He's one of the most unique people I've ever been around or met, and I love that about him. And I think that's what makes him a great player. So he brings a unique energy that I'm always excited to see.
Did you notice there was 1 or 2 less cameras on you last year?
Yeah, definitely.
It's like Jermaine Burton is always in the rotation of the guys you're throwing to in passing drills. Any observations of Jermaine as he tries to have a better second season?
I think he's stepped up this year so far. He's taken it very seriously. Matured, it seems like. That's exciting to see. I know, based on the conversations that we have had, he's in a good spot mentally and physically, and he's been working hard. So that's exciting to see.
With tabs on the stadium situation and all of a sudden that we kind of talked about with the lease we have, how much is that kind of put on your radar?
I mean, I saw it. I'm not entirely sure. I haven't had any other discussions about it than what you guys know. So I don't really know what's going on with that.
How much do you pay attention to any of that? I mean, as that kind of goes back and forth with all the deadlines, on that, how much are you kind of invested to kind of see how that all plays out? What's your process on kind of handling all that stuff?
Right now, there's nothing really to pay attention to, I don't think. as that deadline comes closer, I'm sure if something's not done, there'll probably be more discussions to be had. But right now, nothing.
I know Trey's little media session last week. He said in that about how he went about it very differently than, for example, Jamar Chase did. What are your thoughts on how he's being so public about his personal negotiations, at least being media forward facing with it?
I think he's doing what he thinks is best for his career, and I support him in that. Trey's a smart guy, just like anybody. I'm sure there's things that he'd like to have back, but he's very well thought out in his process and what he's trying to do, and so if he thinks that's the way to go, then that's the way to go.
How do you feel physically? Seems like every year there's a narrative. Is there any, and I think last year was the body, right? Getting the body. Right? Did you do anything this year to tweak that? Did you improve that? Or how do you feel physically?
Yeah, I feel great. This is the best that I've felt in the offseason. Yeah, just like every year, trying to get better, trying to get stronger, faster, healthier. Try to find ways that you can optimize your health throughout the whole season, not hurt as much. So I'm in a good spot.
All right, thanks, Joe. We're going to go switch over to Zach.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Joe.
Go ahead.
Zach, any update on Jamar Stewart, kind of what y'all expect to see him do?
No update yet.
How y'all kind of handle that, trying to get him acclimated and up to speed?
He's done a great job with the meetings.
Any update on Trey?
No update on Trey.
Did y'all end up talking at all? When he was here last?
I've talked to Trey.
What did you make of the comments about him and kind of, what he had to say about the deal? And in the text, there was a lot made of the text message. Can you kind of give a little more insight and kind of measure that and kind of maybe, was that unique for him or?
I put a lot of time into thinking, those situations, there's real money at stake. So I put a lot of time and energy into thinking about how to communicate, when to communicate. And so that's just how I handle that one. And yeah, Trey and I have spoken.
Is that your decision when to handle, when to?
Yes. Yes.
Is there an expectation that he'll be here for games on the weekend?
We'll see.
Distracting at all, to have a player be doing an interview while practice is going on the field.
No, I mean, it was good to see him, good to have him in town. Practice is really wrapped up, for the most part. So I don't have any issue with that.
Is going through kind of similar situations like what you were last year, does that maybe help prepare you in a way for how to handle how those star players kind of go through?
I think every situation is unique, and so again, it's every personality is different, every player is different, the timing of everything's different, and so you just adapt as you go with that stuff.
Zach, how
I was talking to Logan about, fast start. He said it's not a fast start, it's how do you get off to a fast start.
Mm-hmm.
He said he thinks you've done a good job with how you're structuring things and emphasizing it. Just kind of how do you approach that?
Yeah, we've talked about as a team, what that actually means. Not just saying the term fast start. I won't get into it all of it here. Some of the stuff we'll keep for our team meetings, but I do think you got to be specific with what our approach will be going forward, training camp season, some things that we've identified that we think we can improve at in ways to, start the season off on the right foot.
In terms of,
Go ahead, James, and then I'll come back to you.
From a on-field standpoint, how important is it to have Trey on the field this year?
I mean, he's an elite rusher. He's done a great job in this league for a long time and since he's been here, and so obviously he's a valuable part of our team.
in terms of that intensity during training camp, could that mean maybe one or two more joint workouts compared to what you've done last season?
No, not necessarily. I think the one thing I do feel good about is playing our guys more in the preseason. That's always subject to change depending on health and how things go with our team during training camp. But that's one thing that we've openly talked about with our players, and I think will help us as we do it. And so they know that. We've talked about that, and we'll go from there.
Are y'all going to have any joint practices?
Not anticipating that.
Joe just said he'd be interested in playing in the Olympics. Other head coaches in major professional sports, they've had mixed feelings on their players going out and competing at the international level. Where would you stand on that?
I'd say it's too early for me to have a quote on that. I think that's a few years away. So that's a future Zach problem, I think. And so, again, I think there's going to be a lot that will transpire from now over the next 2-3 years. And you can circle back in 2 or 3 years, and I'll have a better answer for you.
So what does Joe do for an encore?
Excuse me?
What does Joe do for an encore? Joe Burrow, what does he do for an encore this year after the type of year he had last year?
Well, I think that's his standard, is to play at the level that he's played at and, continue to help grow the team as a leader. That's something, he's part of the onboarding process with a lot of our new players, a lot of our veteran players. He's obviously an enormous part of this team. And so him getting those guys up to speed so that they can help us win, that's part of the process that he's a part of. And he's always embraced that. And I've always been proud of how he's accepted that role.
How's BJ Hill progressing?
Good. It's off-season program's not a time that we're going to rush through anything. So, although it's unfortunate he's not out there right now, it's getting some young guys, some really valuable reps. He's still there in a leadership role. He's still there in the meetings. He's showing up every single day. So, from a timing standpoint on when something like this is going to happen, it's unfortunate, but we'll work through it with him.
Is it reasonable to think he'll be ready for training camp, or is it too early?
I hate to throw stuff like that out there, but I think it's more short term than long term for sure.
Has Jermaine Burton started to rebuild some trust with you at this point?
All he can handle on is the present right now, and I think he's done a good job of that this offseason. He's been in the building, seen in the building outside of work hours, doing his own thing, rehabbing, prehabbing, I should say, just keeping his body right. And so again, he's attacked every practice and meeting the right way, and that's what he can control right now. And so I appreciate that from Jermaine.
Has the maturity of this rookie class stood out?
Yeah.
Right out of the gate. I know we all heard on draft night just talking to these guys, but anything you can share about the first few weeks?
Yeah, they're impressive. It's a impressive group as a whole, whether you're talking about the 6 draft picks or the undrafted guys. I think from top to bottom, it's a class that you feel really good about. Now, there's been no adversity that's come at them at this point. No pads on, no 11 on 11, no games or anything like that. But they can control that. All they can control is what their attitude has been and their ability to take in the information we've given them, their effort on the field and effort in the weight room. And so far, so good on all those guys.
From a leadership standpoint on defense, how interested are you in seeing how that plays out this summer?
Very. And there's some things we talked to the team about. There's a lot of open roles to be had, whether you're talking about, roles as a first, second down player, a 3-down starter, a guy that brings energy to the team, a guy that brings leadership to the team, through work ethic, through voicing it, through just nonverbal. There's a lot of different styles of roles that are available right now. And I think as I look at the defense, I see a lot of guys very capable. A lot of guys have held those roles. A lot of guys are capable of holding those roles. A lot of guys I'm excited about to see who can embrace those, who can step up and lead that way. And so that part is really fun for me right now in the offseason program. Over the course of the summer, as we get into the pads and training camp, things get a little more difficult. Very excited to see how all that plays out.
T's contract done.
Who's that? I'm sorry.
T's contract
Yeah.
is done. How do you think that might affect how the on-field stuff goes for him? I know he's always kind of trying to put that to the side, but now that it is officially out of mind, it's all done. How do you think that goes back in?
Well, there's certainly a financial relief that comes with that. But in terms of how T has worked, whether he was at the end of his contract or not, he's always, that's something I've always appreciated about T. I've always known what we're going to get out of him. The team's always known that. He's always worked his tail off and been present. And so I'm just happy that obviously with the contract becomes that financial relief, but then there's also the new pressure of you got a contract. And so now you got to perform that way. And my expectation for him is what it's always been, is that we're going to get the best out of T.
Do you feel when the front office is going through and getting their opinion from guys, do you feel good about making sure that guys don't turn that switch off now that financial security is there?
Yeah, we reward the right guys, and so I always feel good about the guys that we reward, and there's many reasons that we do that.
What stands out to you about the schedule?
It's always fun, I think, to start with a divisional game and end with a divisional game. Obviously, it's the same team. We did that a couple years ago with them, so I'm excited. We got some good home games, couple road primetime games. I love playing in primetime. The travel part is what gets you there on the back end of those games, for the next week. So you always appreciate the more home primetime games you can get, which, for whatever reason, the last couple of years, hasn't gone our way. But we're a team, I think, that's embraced that environment. You look at our primetime record last year, we can always go undefeated, your goal to do that, but our guys have always handled those games really well. And can't take for granted being put in those games, in front of the whole world. And I know obviously we'd love to host some divisional primetime games, but I think playing on Thanksgiving night and a standalone game with the whole world watching, sitting on the couch is really exciting. It's why you're in this business. Not only win championships, but you get a chance to perform in front of everybody that watches football is going to be watching those games. And so I'm really excited about those things.
What about the Thanksgiving game? How do you feel about playing in Baltimore again?
There's nothing I can control about that right now. Obviously, we'd love to host some divisional primetime games at some point. We get Pittsburgh this year, so that's exciting. And over time, I'm sure that will tilt back in our favor.
A few weeks ago, we had a chance to talk to Gino about just the process of being asked to take a pay cut and what that conversation was like for him. I know you're not going to get into details as to why that was the case, but for the safety room, do you feel set there, or is that a position where, over the next couple of months, you could see yourself adding more just from a numbers standpoint?
I'm excited about how that group's shaping out for us right now. The guys that have been here that are continuing to grow, and for Gino, year 2 in our system. It's obviously our system's evolving right now with Al, but just year 2 in our building and understanding what our expectations are has been great. Jordan's continued to grow. We got good depth fighting and growing behind those guys. Some young second, third year players that are ready to take that next step. And so I think as a whole, Jordan Kovacs has done a really good job helping those guys improve and setting the expectations. And so we'll continue to see how they work.
Joe said this is the best he's felt coming into an off-season. What's the value of having him at his best self this early in the year?
It's good because obviously he sets the tone for the group. When your starting quarterback is out there and present, getting the reps, with the receivers and the chemistry and the cadence with the offensive line and the exchanges with the backs and all that chemistry stuff. It's always critical that your quarterback's out there, and so Joe's out there has helped us a lot. Go ahead.
Charlie Jones is out there doing some stuff today. What is his status injury-wise, and how important is this year for him to show what he can be here on?
Yeah, I'm excited for him to have a great training camp, obviously, and create a role for himself in our system. That's why we brought him here. And he's shown flashes of being able to do that. Now there's just a consistency of staying on the field, and he's continued to work through that. I think, today he felt good. He felt good going into today, and I haven't talked to him after practice, but we'll just continue to work through that with him.
Still early, only been a little over a month since everyone came back into the building, but what have you seen out of the defensive unit under Al? As they're learning his scheme and his playbook, what's that been like?
Hunger and urgency would be 2 words that I see from that group. They're really eating up what those coaches are giving them. When you sit in those unit meetings and you look at the pre-practice work and all the stuff that they're getting as a unit going through practice, it's a very hungry group. And I can tell that they're buying in to everything that Al and those position coaches are giving to them. They're eating it up. They're prepared every single day. It's really extraordinary to watch how much those guys have really looked at their iPads and looked at the installs, and they show up for the day and they're prepared. So when it's installed, they're already a step ahead. Those players are. And so that gives me comfort seeing that hunger to learn from all of our guys, veterans and young guys. Al's done a great job setting the standard in that room, and the position coaches have followed suit. And so I'm really excited about the direction that group's headed in.
I know you don't have OTAs until next week, but with what you've seen from Al's install and everything, are you pleased with the level of retention and
Yes.
what you've seen from him?
Yeah, and again, there will be times as we get 3 more installs in here where, we'll get a chance to review with the guys and let it all sink in, but they're retaining it as best they can right now, and I've been pleased with the progress they've shown.
How much does it hurt Shamar to not be participating right now?
It's always good to be out there physically on the field. Mentally is one thing, and he's doing that. He's in the meetings, he's studying. He's been great about all that. And then the physical thing, you just don't want to fall too far behind. Every week that passes and can be different, and you want to set yourself up for success. And we expect a great year from Shamar. And so part of that will just be getting up to speed when he does get on the field.
How tough is that as a coach to the front office on one day, you have Shamar on the other, to go through that process?
It's not difficult for me. It's part of the business and part of what you just have to adjust to every single year, and just part of the process for us.
To follow up on that, is it hard to not, you've been doing this so long, I guess you're probably used to it, but to not take it personal against the player or the front office when you're kind of stuck in the middle? Because obviously you want all your players to be
I do not take it personally, yeah.
With the, go ahead, Joe.
With McLaughlin coming back from the Achilles and everything, where is he at, and is it possible he could practice during training camp?
We'll see. Again, too early to make that declaration, but seemingly progressing well and on pace as we would assume, but I don't want to give him a timeline on his return yet.
How much do you pay attention on the stadium restarts?
0.
Is that intentional, or you just have?
I just got other things I got to worry about. Yeah, if they want to involve me in the negotiations, then I'm here. But I don't think that they plan on doing that anytime soon. I went to 4 different colleges, right? And so I don't know that they're looking at me to hammer all that stuff home for them.
Zach, last year you spent more time in some of the defensive meetings this time of year, let pitch kind of take a little bit more ownership. Is there something that you are doing a little differently this time of year in order to kind of get a little bit better view of a different part of the team or a different angle that you want to take this off?
Similar, similar with the defense. I like to sit in there and listen to these guys as they talk and learn myself as well. The way our meetings are staggered is they're separate. So defense goes at one time, offense goes. So you get a chance to be in both. But Pitch has done a great job driving it. I think what Pitch has done an exceptional job of is giving ownership to all the other position coaches and assistant position coaches and giving them something specifically for them to become a master at and present in front of the unit. And we've got just what reiterates for me is when I see our coaches get up there and present, we have such an outstanding group of coaches, future coordinators, future head coaches. These guys knock it out of the park. And when you give them something to do, it doesn't matter if it's perceived to be their strong suit or not. They figure out how to make it a strong suit for them, and they do a great job presenting to where everybody learns. And just really impressed with the job all those guys do. And that starts with Pitch. Pitch has done a good job setting the tone in that room, and pleased with it. We've done a lot more. We have a team meeting every day now. We haven't always done that in the past. And that's more a chance for me to get up and kind of give the message of what we're trying to focus on right now. But also at the same time, get to know your teammates more. We're asking more of our players to get up there and present on some things to show their teammates what they're capable of and just get to know those guys a little bit better.
Do you believe NIL at the college level is kind of impacting how rookies are now doing their deals like
Specifically that situation, I don't believe so. Overall, top to bottom, I'm sure there's some influence. I'm sure that when you find a guy for being late or missing and they got a little more money in their bank account coming from college than they did 5 years ago, that's the part I'm interested just to see how that evolves over the next couple of years. But overall, I think it's a little too early for me to have a really strong opinion on how that's affecting us.
Zach, you went through Hard Knocks last year, but we didn't know that Joe was doing quarterback and everything too. Just what was it like seeing him with the cameras around him and also having those cameras in at times?
Well, it was really, for us, the same as Hard Knocks. How long has that information been out there? Am I just missing that? I don't pay much attention to it, I guess. I've known the secret for a long time. I didn't know when everybody else got up to speed. It was very, the Hard Knocks crew really, there's so many, I should start over. The personnel really is non-existent. You don't see them as much. There's a lot of cameras that are in position rooms, so the camera's in there. I think the team wouldn't have even known that crew working on Joe's stuff was even there. They did such a great job blending in that you wouldn't have even thought about it. I knew, but nobody else would have even noticed. And so those whether it's quarterback, whether it's Hard Knocks, really hats off to those crews because they do a great job just staying out of your hair. Sure, you got to do a couple extra interviews for the camera at times, but they make it as non-invasive as possible. You really don't even notice they're there. They put a great product out there. They're never out to get anybody and make you, sure, they want good TV and they want things that people will watch. And so there's some give and take there. And I've gotten comfortable with that over the years of as long as you're true to yourself and there's nothing you would ever want to hide, whether it's behind closed doors or in front, I really don't care what they put on there anymore. And that's kind of always been my message to Emily is whatever. I'm being true to myself and I'll put it out there. And if they want to show it, great. People find that interesting, that's fine. But I did walk away from the process with both those groups feeling like they do a great job and they make it as easy as possible. And you also want our fan base. We have such a great fan base and we have such tremendous personalities. I've always said this. It's important that those are showcased to our fans, that they get to know these players on a more personal level. And And that makes them even more attached to the organization and the players that they're supporting. And they give us a lot as a fan base. And so I think it's important that we answered the bell and are able to give them something. And this year we gave them two things. So maybe that checks the box for a while. But I'm also proud to be a part of that. And I think our guys represented us the right way.
Jerry Montgomery's coaching and teaching has caught your eye so far?
Very thorough, very demanding, great teacher, very intelligent. He really sees the big picture of the defense, not just the front four, not just the front seven. He's got a tremendous understanding of the big picture and how it all fits together. And I think he's just that's a credit to him. That's a credit to the coaching background and the people he's been around. And so really pleased with the job that Jerry has done so far. I'll hit you and then I'll hit you. Go ahead, Jay.
With the quarterback and the screens, how close are you watching those for proprietary information you delegate?
Not really anymore. You know, Emily and Doug and everybody upstairs has done a great job filtering through that.
Kind of the same question, but Joe had said he's seen a couple episodes, but he's probably not going to watch the whole thing when it comes out. Are you going to be watching it when it comes out?
You know, maybe. I don't know. Sometimes I lived it, so I know what happens. So it's not really, you know, when you see yourself, I'm not always just anxious to go watch myself do anything. So, and I don't know why anybody else would be either. But that's just, I'm sure at some point my boys will want to watch it. And if they want to do it and I'm sitting in there, I'll do it. But usually that kind of stuff, I'm not racing out to watch myself.
So when you look at T and Jamal with their contract long term, and Joe, does that affect how you operate as a play caller and move through the offseason for the next weeks and wrinkles, knowing that they're competing for multiple years? How does that impact you at all, if any?
No, you're looking at this year. We're looking at how can we be the best 2025 Bengals team. And there's wrinkles. And again, that's where I think our staff does a great job. Pitch and all the assistants do an excellent job of studying the league, studying ourselves, seeing where our personnel's at. Okay, Mike Gesicki's back now. So there's some things that we can continue to grow with him maybe as we get into year two of the system. Chase Brown continues to evolve. Samaje's back. So there's a lot of things that now that we get these guys in the system a little bit longer, not just T and Jamar, we can continue to grow and tweak, and that's been a really good part of our offseason so far. I think it's still challenging to those guys that have been here for several years. Some of the new things that we're working on is good, and it's pushing their boundaries a little bit, and they've taken it the right way, and so it's good to be able to add those wrinkles in there.
Zach, going back to the quarterback show, if you don't mind, you know, you obviously recognize the upside and the positive of that. Joe also has spoken a lot, you know, plenty of times in public about his legitimate desire for privacy, and the exposure there seems to be the exposure from a show like that. You know, maybe could be at odds with that desire for privacy. Do you ever get concerned about how Joe balances those things?
No, I think Joe knows what he needs to do and doesn't need to do, and a lot of it is part of the quarterback show is just behind the scenes of playing quarterback. It's not necessarily the home life and the off field, and I'm sure there's a little bit of that, but for the most part, it's just it's respect for the game thing. You know, Peyton Manning's a big part of this, and you're hard pressed to find anyone that respects the game of football as much as he does, and so I think he does a good job, you know, as part of that group, talking these quarterbacks through it and understanding, you know, it's a great legacy to leave, that you've got some behind the scenes stuff of what you go through on a given year, and helps the common fan appreciate what these quarterbacks go through on a week to week basis.
Do you care if it's good TV or not?
I'm probably not the great measure of what's great TV or not, to be honest with you. So.
So if it's like objectively a good show, like you're kind of different. Like it's like it's done, it's over with, like we're moving on.
Yeah, that's my approach. Yes.
They've done receiver, now they did quarterback, they did a head coach. You be open to being
If they told me I had to do it, then I got to do it. I'm not racing to do that kind of stuff, but and I don't think they're ever going to want to do that.
What would you hope that fans get out of quarterback watching Joe that maybe they don't know?
An appreciation of what they go through every single day of a game week and over the course of a season, and how their role can evolve as the season goes, the stresses they deal with in game, the pressure's not the right word that they put on themselves, but just the commitment that they put in during the week. I mean, if you really filmed every install meeting we have, from Wednesday through Saturday night, in which I think that they do. Their cameras were in there, so you're going to see some of that stuff with us, and it's impressive, and it's not many people can do it. That's why there's only 32 starters in the world, at this level, and it's having played the position, I obviously have a strong appreciation for what you go through physically and mentally. But again, the top dogs at that position, like Joe, I mean, what they put themselves through and the mental stress that they can handle and process so quickly is unbelievable. I'd be hard pressed to say it's matched at any position anywhere, just because of what they got to go through mentally and physically. And so, I'm sure we'll see some of that with this show that comes out.
See you've done it, you've lived it, you've played it. See, what's the biggest challenge facing the quarterback? The highest.
Yeah, how quickly you have to process, and that's why guys in post-college who are done, because you get to the next level and everyone's bigger, faster, and more complicated, and your brain's got to work that much faster. And it's unbelievable some of the things that Joe is able to do in about 3 seconds. Process, communicate, snap, read it post-snap. It's unbelievable what these guys that play at that level can do. And people won't ever really be able to fully appreciate it unless you're just around them every single day and know exactly